Feel the force around you.
Hello and welcome to the Night Court Racing F1 RST Championship, this week at the Circuit de Catalunya, or simply Barcelona. I'm Midnight and welcome to the Blue Lobby meeting for Season 3, Round 2. Tonight I am joined by Mick Manley, one of our favourite racers in the series and all-round good guy, also commentator. Welcome back.
Hello, yes, I am indeed commentating once again with Midnight for round 2 here at Barcelona. Going to be an exciting race. We saw an absolute belter last race for the season opener, and I'm very excited here for today. And on to Midnight again for the event information.
Thank you very much, Matt. And yeah, if anyone hasn't seen the red or blue lobbies of Red Bull Ring from last week, please check them out on our YouTube. So, onwards. So, this is a 10-race championship in which we'll see 20 races, half sprints, half feature race. We have two lobbies, red and blue, formerly known as L1 and L2. We have over 30 drivers taking part. The basic format for this is, well, we'll have the sprint race right at the beginning, then qualifying, then our feature race. So, Mac, can we have a bit more detail on the layout and the format of said event, please?
Absolutely. So, the lobby splits are a bit different this race, right? So we determined them in round 1 with a 10-minute qualifying, but now the lobby splits are basically based on the average points scored per driver. So you'll see a few new drivers in here today, simply because they've moved from the red lobby into the blue lobby, and then there'll be some drivers that are missing because they're on from the blue lobby into the red lobby. Now, in terms of red and blue, for those that forgot, obviously red lobby has no assists excluding ABS, and in blue lobby have free reign over whatever assist they want. For the sprint race, we've got reverse average points scored per drivers. So as I said, average points scored is what determines the lobby splits. It's reverse for the sprint races. So basically, for example, the person who's the highest points will start at the back, and then the person with the lowest points in the lobby will start towards the front. Then it'll be a rolling start as well, and we're going to have 4x tire, 3x fuel use. So you're going to start on 75% fuel, and there's open tire options for the race, so we'll most likely see people sticking on the softs, but it's going to be close towards the end with tire wear, high tire wear track. Now the feature qualifying 10 minutes, and it's going to be 1x tire wear and the same fuel consumption, but they have 50% fuel just because it more mimics IRL series, as well as the fact that, you know, you can get the best out of the car with the lowest amount of fuel. Then the tire you qualify on will be the tire you start the feature race as well. So you start, if you do your qualifying on softs, you start on softs, do it on mediums, you start on mediums, vice versa. So then the feature race is going to be 37 laps around this amazing circuit, and it's going to be a grid start. And obviously there's no weather for this track, so there's no rain. And on to Midnight for the points.
Thank you, Mac. And 37 laps around here is a bit grueling, as we both know, but it is a bit of a challenge, which is why we like this. Anywho, as yes to the point, so for the blue lobby. For the sprint race, it starts at 14 points for win, down to 12 for second, and 10 for third. Then 1 point deduction all the way to 12 for 1 point. There is also a point for the fastest lap in the sprint race. The feature race will be 28 points for a win, 25 points for second, 22 for third, and then down points down to 14th, which will be 1 point, and there'll be another bonus for 2 points for the fastest lap. There is also, for qualifying in that 10-minute session, a few extra points for pole, second and third at 3, 2 and 1. So, something to fight for in every position in the blue lobby. So Matt, I think we should go and discuss the drivers and get ready for the sprint race.
Absolutely. Alright, so now on to the drivers for this race. We have 12 of them in total. So very nice amount for this sprint race. And up in first will be Piper. Of course, we all love Piper, running number 73 for this league, running a very nice BMW M6. And as Midnight said last race, it is no longer Piper in the Viper, it's now Piper in 3. On to Sarah Hockey, who we saw have a bit of an unfortunate race last race. It was a good performance, although an issue with lag caused her to lag out of the session and unfortunately prematurely end her feature race. She'll be looking to hopefully have a good feature race this time and no network issues. On to Sophia, who is a new face for those watching Blue Lobby, but a familiar face for me. In the Blue Lobby for this race, coming down from the Red Lobby, number 69 running that very nice Corvette livery. It's going to be interesting to see what she can do starting from P3. A very quick driver overall. We'll have to see if she can maximize her pace here today at Barcelona. Next on to Hartmann in the stunning looking Corvette. Once again, both Corvettes lined up right alongside each other. Number 88, hopefully going to be looking for a good race here today at the circuit. And we'll have to see what he can do starting from P4 for that sprint race. Rippin' to Taran is next in the Mustang. We saw him in Red Lobby, another person from Red Lobby now in Blue Lobby for today. Running the 4GT, lovely purple and kind of dark purple livery. So we saw last race, unfortunately, getting a bit sideways with the strategy in the wet, the kind of semi-wet conditions they had in the Red Lobby, which caused them to ultimately not have the best of feature races. We'll be looking to hopefully fix strategy for today in the Droy and get as many positions as possible. On to Chris Douglas next, who had, I'd say, an amazing performance last race. We saw him leading the race at one point during the feature. Once again, two identical car makes lining up right alongside each other. First it was the Corvettes, now it's the two 4GTs. It'll be interesting to see what he can do today. That car looks very good on fuel and tires, a very efficient car. We'll have to see if he can maximize that on a strategy for today's race. On to you, Midnight, for 7th to 12th.
Thank you very much, Mac. And yeah, on to our Sabre Venom, one of the DSR drivers we have in the field in that 911. Had a tricky race at Red Bull Ring, but looking to bounce back here in that 911 at Barcelona for a good result. On to one of our admin in the Aston Martin Vantage. Big Crazy Bertie, simply known as Bertie, looking for another good result after a very, very strong, particularly strong drive in the mixed conditions last week at Red Bull Ring. Now, on to the four drivers who will be lining up in the last two rows for Barcelona. They are starting at the back because it is the first race of the season, but we'll be looking to make their way through the field. So first up, we have Yvonne in the other 911 in the field. Absolutely amazing livery there in the 147. Next up, Sophie in the lone 458, number 714. Very strong results in a couple of races last season in Season 2, looking to definitely make a presence felt on the grid. Next up, again, one of our new drivers, Max Velocity. So, in that 650S, number 84, looking to impress. And Pac-Man 292, one of the Dad Bod Racing crew, starting at the back of the grid in the NSX, but again, looking to impress. Good luck to him. And now we're going to go on to the track facts with you, Mac.
Yes, so I love this track. Totally not biased from potentially doing something amazing in the Red Lobby race, which you should totally watch currently on the Nighthawk Racing channel. Do the Red Lobby commentary that is with Sarah and Deadline. Do watch it. But onto the track facts. It's a 4.654 kilometer track. That is with the chicane though. So unfortunately, we don't know what the length is without the chicane. It is what it is. But 2.892 miles for the Americans, of course. And it's got 16 corners left and right. This no chicane layout that we're running today was only added in Gran Turismo 7 in an update. Before that, we had none of the beautiful national or rallycross layouts. So for anyone that might be new to GT7, they won't have experience for this track, as a lot of sims will have the chicane version. For example, F1 up until last year. So it's going to be interesting to see what the drivers can do here today. It's a very high wear track, which, I mean, we saw a low wear track last race, and now we're going to the complete contrast with a high wear track. The drivers that are starting on softs are going to struggle towards the end with their tire wear and fuel. It'll be most likely people will pit for tires before fuel, complete opposite to what we saw the previous race. Of course, we are cutting out the chicane. The chicane usually would break up some of the fighting that we'd see that would be going onto the straight, so hopefully that might give drivers an easier time of getting a run out of those that penultimate corner and the final corner. onto the straight and hopefully make some nice overtakes going into turn 1, 2, and 3.
Beautiful, Matt, beautiful. And as far as I see it, this track always does throw up a little bit of a mixed bag sometimes. It's a track you love or you hate. But that said, I think this leads us on to our predictions, because you can generally see the drivers that like this track tend to do well because they prepare for the high tyre wear or can just find a way around it. And I was just having a quick look at the grid. We see the two Ford GT drivers and Patman 292 at the back in the NSX on medium tyres for the sprint race. So they're clearly thinking, the 10-lap race that we've got, that tyre wear is going to be an issue. Do you have any predictions surrounding the grid that we're looking at?
I'm going to be honest, I think the two drivers there that are sitting in the second row in the Corvettes might have a good chance here for this sprint race. The tyre wear is very high and it doesn't change much between cars. It's not as if certain cars have less tyre wear. Even if there is less tyre wear, it's a bit minimal. I mean, there's very little difference in the tyre wear between the Corvette and the AMG, which the AMG is seen usually more as a more tyre efficient car. And in the red lobby, we saw a complete contrast from what we usually see. So I think the cars won't really matter as much today, unless it's in terms of straight line speed heading down the front straight. So I think, honestly, there is a very long run into turn 1. I think the two Corvettes there of Hartmann and Sophia have a good chance starting 4th and 3rd, respectively, into turn 1.
Do you know what? I'm going to absolutely agree with you. And watch those Corvettes, particularly off the line. They're absolutely electric. However, I'm going to somewhat go on opposite 40. I'm going to be watching that tyre, that front left. I mean, we obviously with the red lobby, we did see some negligible changes, but we're going to. Do you know what? It's down to each race and how the conditions come and how each driver handles it. So I think it's going to be a factor even in the sprint, but I guess we'll see. It's good to have that juxtaposition between us because we're going to be looking at different things and we're going to be very much aware of what's going to happen. So let's keep an eye on it and let's get the sprint race underway, shall we?
Yes.
Okay, here we are for the start of the sprint race. Piper on pole, Sarah Hawkey on second. Sarah seems to get away very well, so does Piper, but Sophia between the two of them, going down towards turn 1 in that Corvette with that V8 power, absolutely taking the initiative into P1. Piper still in second, Sarah Hawkey still in third on the inside. Good clean racing by everyone so far. Sophia into turn 1, turn 2. Piper a little bit wide, but still holding the position in P3. Ripping to Terra in P4. Sophie already in that 458 up to P5. Amazing start from her. Chris Douglas down to P7 and wide at turn 3. Gets on the Astro, just keeps going though. But down to P8. Max velocity all the way up from the back of the grid into P6 as well. We've got loads of movers on this one so far. Piper still in P3 though, holding his own. But Sophia trying to streak away in that Corvette up front. Got to get away quickly with those soft tyres. And it's going to settle down a little bit. Sarah coming into turn 7, ripping to Sarah and going for P3. Piper going wide, running very wide and stopping. That's an interesting one, causing yellow flag, stopping in T6, I think that is. But maybe just letting the field go. Bertie at the back with a 3-second penalty. He must have had an incident somewhere. Not sure what's going on there. Piper falling to the back of the grid. Chris Douglas in P10, but again at the front, Sophia with a lightning start. Sarah Hawkey in P2, making good use of that Mclaren. Coming around the final couple of corners, ripping to Terran up to P3. Hartmann in that other Corvette P4. Patman from the very back of the grid, the very last spot, P5 on those medium tyres. An outstanding start. Sophie P6 and Yvonne P7. Mac, what a first lap so far.
Yeah, pretty intense first lap. A lot of drivers, as we see Sophie going off the track, but just to mention as well, Max Velocity had a bit of a moment as well, was battling for P5 with Rippin de Terran and went off into turn 11, so very unfortunate there. We see a few drivers kicking up gravel on the final turn, but out front it's Sophia followed by Sarah, so a great start from Sophia, jumping the top 2 into turn 1 as we see Rippin de Terran now defending P3 from Hartmann. Looks like Hartman not going to be able to launch a move right now. Ripping to Terran, an amazing job going from P5 to P3 here in the first lap. So some mega gainers and a few losers on the first lap. This is Ripping to Terran has went off the track there now. Oh dear, down into P5, back to where he started, as Yvonne now is going to pick up a nice free position and will say, thank you very much, I will take that. Down the inside there now, just before turn 10, turn 9, of course.
Yeah, that was unfortunate for Ripping to Terran. Gained a couple of places, lost them both, and an extra one. Coming wide in that corner. It's unfortunate, but that's what happens. He's on those medium tyres. He couldn't find quite the amount of grip he needed in that corner. But Pac-Man 292 from the last slot on the grid up to 4th. What a move. And on those medium tyres, he's going to have a lot of pace at the end of this sprint race. And Hartman, P3. It looks like, well, it looks like the Corvettes are sandwiching that McLaren at the moment, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, the McLarens are looking really strong. That's Sophia going from P3 to P1 and Hartman from P4 to P3, gaining a position after Ripping to Terran having a bit of an off. But as you said, yeah, Pac-Man in the NSX just getting an absolute mega start and managing to climb up the order, capitalizing on all some of the chaos that people would have been having on the first lap, trying to get past each other and just keeping his head cool and making them moves when it mattered. We see Haslett there now fighting with Ripping to Terran in 4th-6th position, heading into turn 3. That nice long right-hander, but the outside is going to get a good exit here if Haslett can stick it, but he's going to go for the inside now as they head into turn 4. Looks pretty good racing.
That's clean, that's good.
Yes, side by side, and Haslett makes that move up into P6. A very good move and a crucial one in this sprint race. Of course, it's only 10 laps. You have to make the moves when it counts. We see Piper with a 0.5-second penalty with Birdie following behind, so Birdie might be able to capitalize on a position there. Max Velocity is caught up to the pack there now after having that all up on the first lap. But it looks like the pack has kind of settled down a small bit. But now as I say that, actually, Hartman looking around the outside of Sarah into turn 11. Not sure if he's going to get that done, unfortunately. Sarah managing to brake later and hit the apex perfectly. Managing to get a good exit there as well, but will be under threat heading on to this main straight.
Yeah, Hartman making the best of that Corvette, getting close and up to the braking zone. But that McLaren is very good on the brakes and the twisty bits. The Corvette traditionally is a little bit more of a straight line car, but now it's that point of the track where Hartman is going to be coming right at Sarah, one of our co-founders for this league. She's going to be thinking about going defensive into turn 1. Will she move or will Hartman go for the dive? Only time will tell. I think she's got it just about under control for this couple of corners. Going to have to stay completely on it for the next couple of corners into that braking zone. This might be a bit of a long battle, this one. Might be a bit of a slow burn, but you can just see the tyre wear creeping up on both cars equally. So both are going to suffer, I think, by the end of this race. And I was keeping an eye on some of the other cars. The 911s look like they're having a little bit of interesting fun with that front left. As Hartman is going for it round the outside of inside turn 4 to the outside of turn 5. Still thinking about it. Sarah covering off the inside, sitting on the apex, making Hartman go the long way round. As Hartman goes to the inside to the next left-hander. On the brakes, both going side by side. Good racing room from the pair of them. Will Hartman stick it? Coming into the next one. Still side by side. This is absolutely great racing from these pair. Mac, what's your views on this so far?
Yeah, really good racing. Sarah's choosing all the correct defensive lines to defend from that Corvette of Hartman. The Corvette doesn't have the best grip into the corners, as we see a move now as Hartman tries to get it down the inside, but Sarah unable to get a good exit. Now that leaves Hartman into P2, but also now Pac-Man is having a lovely sniff of this battle and is like, I would like some positions, thank you, and is now on the back of Sarah as they head through the penultimate corner and now into the final corner. And you want to have about 3 or 4 tenths between you and the driver in front in order to get a move, in order to get the slipstream, to get a move into turn 1. And it looks like now we're going to see Pac-Man alongside Sarah heading into turn 1. Pac-Man has that inside line, but Sarah has the outside. the outside line is superior into that first corner as long as you can get the exit, but it looks like Sarah hasn't been able to stick it around the outside. Maybe the tyre wear a bit too much. The tyre is starting to lose a bit of grip now in this stage of the race, as we see Sophie now heading for a move on ripping the Terran for P7 as Pac-Man under pressure again from Sarah.
It's all go all the way across the grid at the moment. So many battles going on, and it's going to be getting towards that time with the tyre and the soft tyres. It's going to be starting to be hurt. That initial grip from that soft tyre is going to start to be waning now. As you can see on Haslett's 911, that tyre is halfway down to the canvas, halfway through the sprint race. So he's going to be absolutely suffering. Those medium tyres like Pac-Man, and then I think Rip and Deterrent and the Ford GT are going to start to be laughing soon. But yeah, Pac-Man, P3, after a great move and great battle with Sarah. Sarah down to P6 now, as a couple of cars have got him past. But it just proves around Barcelona, once you're wrong-footed, a couple of cars can come shooting past you.
Yeah, we can see there Sarah losing a few positions, unfortunately, after having that battle with Hartman, looking at a move for P5 now to get back a position on Haslett. Manages to get it done around the outside. That's a really interesting overtake. We usually don't see overtakes in that corner. A well move there from Sarah, but now Haslett is going to be under pressure from Sophie and ripping the Terran from behind, and Sophie's going to be alongside now on this straight, wheel to wheel on the straight even, and is going to manage to get past before turn one's even complete, and then might even get a bit of slipstream off Sarah to maybe launch a move on her, but just too far back heading to turn one. But I do want to discuss there, I said that the outside line is a superior line, which is true for certain situations, because for example, when you're on the outside line, you do have the inside line for the next corner, and it's a case of if you can manage to brake late, you'll be fine. But sometimes that inside line, if you go to that inside line, it's pretty much unstoppable for an overtake. Like, if you go to the inside line, you will get the overtake done pretty much 99% of the time, because it's just so much better than the outside line.
I'm right with you on that one. It's all about that placement, and I think all the drivers are placing their cars brilliantly today, showing each other a lot of respect. But yeah, Sarah made good use of that outside line there and defended and overtook very well. But at the moment, more moves going on, ripping to tearing on those mediums, coming back at Haslett. So those mediums now starting to work beautifully, and a lot of those soft tyre runners starting to struggle as Haslett is thinking about a move down the outside of Sarah, around that right-hander. Sarah covering off the corner nicely, sitting on the apex. But we're looking a bit further forwards. We've got Sophie coming from the back as well, following Pac-Man, and coming into the final corner, thinking about a move. But again, I still think we're going to be watching out for those tyres. Don't want to keep talking about them and keep moaning about them, but they are going to be shredding soon. Okay, and as we see, Rip into Terran, looking to make the move down to turn one. Matt, will he make this stick?
Oh, we'll have to see now. The 4GT versus that Porsche on the inside line. Better line than Sabre might have into this corner. But Sabre is going to manage to brake later, but will be a bit compromised now for turn 3. Is he going to be on the outside, ripping to Terran on the inside, trying to make that move stick. It looks like he might be able to clear him. Yes, he has, before turn 4 even happens. But Sabre Venom is now going to have the inside line, but ripping to Terran defending the inside line. Smart move there from the 4GT driver as he's catching up to Sarah now.
Yeah, and then those tyres on Haslett's car looking the very second hand now. He's going to have to be very careful for the rest of the sprint race. Another 3 laps to go after the end of this one. But Rip into Terran looking like he's going to be trying to make a move on Sarah very quickly. Goes to the inside. Sarah carrying enough speed to keep Rip into Terran behind. I can't help feel that she went a little bit wide in there and almost invited Rip into Terran to have a go. That said, you've got to watch Haslett behind, so Rip into Terran is looking forward and back at the same time. Rip into Terran going for the move into the hairpin. Nope, couldn't get it stuck this time. Hatman looks like he's lost a place to Sophie in from P4 to down to P5. And in fact, he was running P3 at one point, so Vaughn's got past him too. But that NSX looking good on tyre wear, but if not a bit tricky at the moment. But again, this is the point of the race, even in the sprint race, where it's going to become very tricky for those soft tyre runners. But out front, Sophia absolutely running away with it in that Corvette at the moment. Hartmann in the second Corvette, very strong. Your predictions coming true, Mac. And Yvonne in that lead 911, followed by Sophie in the 458, Pac-Man in the NSX, Sarah Hawkey, Ripping Terran, and Haslett rounding out the top 8. Interesting race so far, Mac.
Yeah, we're really seeing the drivers really trying to push it, trying to get the positions in this 10-lap race. They are trying to get up as quick as they can, and Saber Venom now on the inside of turn 3 compared to last lap where Rippin' to Terran was on the inside, but he's not able to make it stick, and Rippin' to Terran's going to keep that 7th position. He goes a bit wide, but he's ultimately going to have the better exit than Haslett does, but it looks like Haslett maybe alongside. No, he's not. So Haslett will have to wait another lap there now, as Sarah Hawkey is managing to pull away from them there in front, so she has no threat from the two behind. Yep. Meanwhile, it is the two Corvettes leading, as you mentioned, and Yvonne and Sophie managing to get past Pac-Man. So Pac-Man had that wonderful start, but it looks like maybe just the tires or the car he's struggling towards the later stages of this race. Maybe the medium tires is what's causing that.
Quite possibly, and I can tell you now, Saber Venom's front left has just died. So it's going to become very, very hard for him to get back up to P7. Rippin' to Terran is going to have to make use of those medium tyres in the last couple of laps here. But at the moment, it's all settling down a little bit. It's calming down a little bit. Just to round off the rest of the grid, we do have Chris Douglas, who's unfortunately, despite running the medium tyre, he is running in 12th at the moment. Piper in 11th, Bertie in 10th after a very odd opening lap for him with that 3-second penalty, but with again a dead front left. Looks like some of those soft tyre runners struggling here today. Max Velocity up to P9, so he's doing alright and keeping those soft tyres alive. And yeah, I'm now looking at it, I can definitely see Saber Venom or Haslett's tyres look like they have fallen off a cliff, and he's now Rippin' Terran has gotten away from him. So I think we're looking into the last lap or two now. I think it's now the battle for 6th, if not the battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th between Yvonne, Sophie and Pac-Man, and again battle for 6th between Sarah Hawkey and Rippin' to Terran.
Interesting now as the race boils down to the final 10 laps here, or the final 2 laps here, not 10, as we see now Yvonne commanding Yvonne now in P3, but might be under pressure here from Sophie and Pac-Man behind, as Rippin' to Terran is having a bit of a battle with Sarah as well in P6, and it looks like Rippin' to Terran has managed to get past as well.
Yeah, he's done it. He's done it. I think Sarah made an error somewhere, has gone wide. Rippin' to Terran seized on it with those medium tyres coming into the final lap for these drivers, and there's definitely a battle for 3rd now. 911, 458 and the NSX all going for it down into the final lap for the first corner. Well, here we go, almost 3 abreast into the first corner. Pac-Man up to P4 from the back of the grid. Now following Yvonne, whose front left tyre has given up the ghost. Now just watch Pac-Man in the turn 3. This is where the wear on those front lefts absolutely show most. But he's being boxed out a little bit. He's finding it hard to find the room on the track. He can go down the inside, but it's very narrow around there. He's definitely squeezed a little bit. All fair so far, but it's trying to find that room and use the tyre advantages that you've got.
Yeah, it looks like Pac-Man struggling to get past the Porsche and the 458, but it looks like he's managed to stick the move on the 458. But it's a case of now, if Sophie's going to fight back, and she will, into this corner now, into the left-hander. Looks like she managed to get done a bit of a wobble on the exit as that rear left of the Ferrari is dying out. Interesting to see that. We were mentioning it, the front left for most drivers, but that Ferrari is wearing out its rears quicker. But Sophie, having that snap of oversteer, is going to let Yvonne in front get a bit further ahead, so Yvonne might be able to take this P3 home, but we'll have to see what happens with P4 as Rippin' to Terran now is managing to get up to this battle. But it's the final few corners. Will there be any more moves as Sophia crosses the line in first position, to take a commanding win, as Hartman in the other Corvette is going to come home in P2 in a second.
Patman's got a penalty.
Yes, he does. So that means that Ribbon to Terran is going to get past, and potentially... no, not Sarah. Sarah looks like she's too far back, unfortunately, but that means Pac-Man is going to drop to 6th, while Yvonne gets P3, Sophia P4, Sarah P5, sorry, not Sarah P5, Max Velocity P9, Saber Venom in P8, Bertie looks like he's going to get P10, Piper in 11th, and Chris Douglas in 12th.
Well, that was frantic for the last podium spot, and all the way to 7th or so. Oh, that was, yeah, frantic. I think it's going to be the word of the day for that one. But well done to all the drivers. Looked like they kept it quite clean between them. A little bit of paint swap, but nothing too untoward. I think they all did quite well, but I think you called that exactly right. Those Corvettes absolutely ran away with it in the end, looking very, very strong from Sophia and Hartman. Well, Matt, any particular highlights from that one, or do we just need to go and take a breather after that?
Oh, I do have to say, it was quite a interesting race. There was battles all over the track. I think, honestly, I don't have any specific highlights from that race. I think everything kind of was just a big blur. There was so much happening everywhere. There was stuff in P8, there was stuff in P1. I think, you know, it would be kind of unfair to pick out a highlight because there were so many different battles going on. So I think every battle really today in the sprint race was a highlight, because there was so much good racing.
Yeah, I'm gonna absolutely agree with that. But out front, Sophia absolutely running away with it. We know how quick she is, and yeah, done very, very well. Just a simple race from her, got out front, stayed there, and that's exactly what you need to do when you're looking for those points. But Hartman, a well-deserved podium as well, and that whole group following did very, very well. So absolute shout out to each and every one of them for such good clean racing around this very tricky track at Barcelona. But I think that does inform our decisions, well, our opinions going forwards about the feature. Tyre wear is going to be severe around here, and a lot of drivers are going to be pushing their luck a little bit maybe with those soft tyres, but we'll see what happens. Matt, on to qualifying and then the feature race.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. We'll have to see if there's going to be any changes, or if we're going to see a similar situation with tyres, with fuel, with cars, with corners, really, to be honest, with overtakes. We'll have to see. Will there be less aggression now because there's more laps? Will there be more aggression because people just want to get up into podium positions? We'll have to see.
Time will tell. Time will tell. Right, to the qualifying results.
So qualifying is concluded, and we have 12 drivers qualifying, although we only have 11 starting the race, as Piper qualified, but unfortunately is not doing the feature. So where Piper is, everyone will be shifted up one position. So we're starting off with Sophia on pole position, 1 minute 40 flat. So a good qualifying time from the Corvette and from her. So she'll be starting on pole position on the front row, and alongside her is Sophie in the 458. Interesting to see a nice mix of cars there. Of course, you know, the 458, we'd expect that to be kind of a harsh car on tires and fuel, but it's good to see that it can pull out the performances in qualifying when it's needed. We've got Haslett in P3 in the Porsche. Really good qualifying from them. Only 3/10 off of Sophie, so a good qualifying from the driver in the 911. Would be interesting to see what they can do from the second row. We saw Sophia jump the front two from P3. Can Haslett do the same? We'll have to find out. Then we've got Pac-Man in P4. Once again, we saw him start P12 and get a really good start up in 8 positions. So we'll have to see, can he capitalize? Can he do the same that Sophia did, just from one position further back than Sophia did in the sprint race? You'll have to see, can he get slipstream into turn 1 and potentially overtake? We'll have to find out. Then we have Hartman in P5, the man who started P4 for the sprint, so just one position further back for the feature race. In the Corvette, of course, getting P2 in that sprint race, with a 142 flat. So, and I believe that was 2/10 off of Pac-Man in front of him. Ribbon to Tearing, 4GT, good performance from them. I mean, we saw a pretty solid performance from Ribbon to Tearing in the sprint race, and I'm sure he might be able to pull out a solid performance in the feature if he works on a strategy a small bit, which is what we saw him fall down in the red lobby last race. I think if he works on a strategy, it could be an excellent race from him today. Max Velocity in P7. Of course, as I said, we're going to skip over Piper, who's currently in P7. So, Max Velocity in P7 for the race. In the Mclaren number 84, a really good performance from them in the qualifying. And, I mean, it's just really close between the top 8 there. I mean, we're going to have to see what happens in the turn 1, because the drivers are all really competitive here for today's races. And it's going to be in P9, it's going to be Yvonne in the Porsche 911. Maybe not the qualifying they would have wanted, considering their sprint performance. They did do quite well in the sprint, managing to get a podium. So we'll have to see. Maybe it was just a one-off. Maybe just got blocked in qualifying, just maybe made a mistake. We'll be looking to get up a few positions there heading into turn 1. We've got Chris Douglas in P10 in the 4GT. We saw him up in P1, as I mentioned, in the sprint, in the blue lobby race last race. So we'll have to see. Maybe just an unlucky qualifying. Hopefully they can make up some positions. Sarah Hawkey in the 650S in P11. Unexpected, I'd say maybe just a bit of issues in qualifying, about a second and a bit off of Chris Douglas. So maybe just having a few problems there with their qualifying laps. We'll have to see what they can do and how they can do in the race, and hopefully get some positions. And Bertie there in the final slot on the grid in the V12 Vantage will be looking to get up positions. And as they say, if you start last, you can't lose any positions. So it's going to be all on the table here for Bertie, all up for grabs.
Brilliant, thanks Matt, and I think it's worth getting onto the grid now and see what happens in the race. But I'm just going to briefly state we've got quite a few drivers starting on very, very different tyres. So Sophia on the soft, Sophie on the medium, Haslett on the soft, Patman on the medium, Hartman on the medium, and it looks like mediums are going to be the way for most of the drivers here today. But, well, actually, it's a complete mix. So, something to keep an eye out. This leads into a good race. Let's have some fun, mate.
Yes, let's get started. Alright, we're here on the grid now for the feature race. It's lights out and away we go for this 37 lap sprint. It looks like the second row hasn't gotten a good start, unlike the sprint race. Sophia and Sophie managing to get the jump, and they're alongside into turn 1. Hartman kicking up a bit of grass there in the background as they head into turn 1 now. Sophia managing to stay ahead of Sophie into the first few set of corners. Looks like not much position changes throughout the pack. Max Velocity, though, managing to get up to P6, and Sarah Hawkey already up into P7 from P10. A good start from them, as we see now the pack kind of spinning out, but there is still a few battles as max velocity sending it down the inside, late on the brakes. But Hartman managing to get the switch back now in the Corvette and get that position back off of max velocity as they head into the next few set of corners now. Is still the first lap. Quite a long track here compared to Austria, as we see Ripon Tataryn have a few issues here. Looks like he's letting people pass in the 4GT. A bit of a unfortunate start for him into P7. Max Velocity losing a few positions, as well as Chris Douglas up into P6. A good start from him. We see Hartman now P5, Pac-Man in P4. Haslett now going for a move on Sophie for P2. Pulling back into the racing line, thinking better of it. Sophie defends the inside line just in case, as Sophia not managing to break away from the pack here at the start. Looks like they're all quite neatly tied together. No break in the chain until it gets to Hartman, who's dropped a bit further back. As we see, there's a few moves happening as the two 4GTs have swapped positions. Sarah Hockey lost a few positions as well into P9, unfortunately. As we see Yvonne not getting the start she would have wanted down in P11. They've completed the first lap here. An interesting first lap, Midnight.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of a tagging going on somewhere around turn 4 and 5. A couple of drivers jumping around, losing some places and whatnot. Ripon Tataryn pulling over, so I can only presume there's been a little bit of contact, but sporting behaviour. We did see Ripon Tataryn pulling over and letting people by. So that's one for the stewards later on. So far, so good though, but I think we're on for a race here. Sophia not getting away from Sophie in that 4.58, and Sophie crucially on those medium tyres. As we spotted in the sprint race, she had definite issues with that rear left grip towards the end. So she's playing the longer game, but one thing we have to state in the rule book, you have to use two different compounds of tyres, as Sophie runs wide and onto the gravel and dropping three places, sorry. So absolutely unfortunate trying to stay with Sophia on that one. Dropped her so quite a few seconds and places. Unfortunate, Matt.
Yeah, super unfortunate. Just getting onto the outside line, just understeering off. We know that 458 is quite a tricky car to handle and quite a tricky car to master as well. So maybe just a bit of understeer there heading into turn 5, catching her out and sending her onto the gravel. You see Pac-Man, who's been promoted into P3 because of that mistake, but has got a 0.5 second penalty, which will have to serve on the next lap. Haslett will be super happy now, up into P2 there and right on the back of Sophia. Could we see a move here in the next few laps between Haslett and Sophia? We'll just have to see the Porsche 911 versus the Corvette C7.
I have to see what happens. I mean, if it's going to happen, this will be where it is. But Sophia in that Corvette with that V8 grunt and trying to break the slipstream has definitely kept Haslett behind her for the first part of this lap. So single file for the moment. Sophia followed by Haslett. Pac-Man carrying that half-second penalty into turn 3. Hartman and then Sophie looking to gather herself up again on those medium tyres. Chris Douglas having a cracking race so far in P6 coming round turn 3. Ripon Tataryn on those medium tyres again in P7. Bertie running higher this time and on the mediums in P8. Sarah looks like she's fallen back a few places, but still running fairly strong and settling down in P9. Yvonne in P10, closely following that Mclaren. And Max Lossie, he is lost out somewhere and has front end damage. I don't know if that's from contact with a wall or contact with another driver. I've not seen anyone with rear end damage, so maybe a spin. But unfortunate for Max in his debut around this track. But at the end of the day, there's another 8 more events in this series, so long way to go, and he can sort of settle down, get used to the format, and enjoy the rest of the racing, hopefully. But Hartman out in P3 now, taking Pac-Man after taking that half-second penalty. Opportunistic there, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, Pac-Man losing out there because of that penalty just shows how crucial it is. Keep it within the white lines. Just even a dip off of that white line will get you quite a hefty penalty. Sometimes 0.5. We even see 1.5, I believe, in the red lobby at one point for cutting the track. So unfortunate for Pac-Man, but he will have a run onto this straight now to try overtake Hartman. The NSX doesn't have the best straight line speed. It's not the best car for straight line speed, so that Corvette will have the upper hand on that straight. As you can see, not able to gain any time in the slipstream. Sophie is following quite closely to this pair though. So if any mistake happens, or if they have any battle, Sophie will definitely be willing to capitalize on that.
I think the question is, Matt, what do you do at this point? These three drivers are all running the same strategy. The top two are on softs, these three are all on mediums. Do you try and make a break for it, use a bit of your tyre reserves early on and get out in some clear air, or do you sit behind, potentially save a bit of fuel, save a little bit of tyre wear where possible, and gun it towards the end of the stint? Try and go for an overcut rather than undercut. Because they will be thinking, even only after 3 laps on lap 4, they will start to be thinking strategy at this point.
Honestly, you always want clean air. The dirty air around this track, especially through the final 2 corners, is quite bad. You can, and especially in the final 2 corners, it's very easy to get a penalty, which is the main thing. If you run off course on the rest of the track, you'll go onto gravel or grass, so that would be even more of a penalty than just getting a time penalty like Bertie has here, who's going to serve a 0.5, which will let Sarah get alongside him into the next corner potentially. You see around the outside there, but it's a case of anywhere on this track in the dirty air, you can get understeer, you can get oversteer. It can cause the car to behave differently, and because of that, the tires will wear quicker. And fuel, as I said, fuel won't be a big issue in this race. The tires will wear before fuel. So even if you wanted to save fuel, you'd only want to save fuel really if you were going on something like the hard tire and you wanted to maximize the stint. But really, I'd say you want to get in clean air as soon as possible. You want to break free from the other drivers and have the track to yourself, because you not only does it help you with your tires, it also helps you focus in general. If you have a car shifting between lanes in front of you, it can be quite distracting. And in general, just having to predict what the driver in front of you is doing can really just take away from your own performance.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. I would choose a clear track over slipstreaming, saving fuel any day. At the very least, you can maximise your own tyre wear and then focus on what's in front of you rather than what's going on around you, as it were. So, yeah, I would agree with you on that. But all these drivers, again, on medium tyres. It looks like the race is starting to settle down a little bit now. Ripon Terran's made a gap between himself and Chris Douglas. Patman and Sophie are still fighting for P4, but Hartman in that Corvette making a break for it in P3, trying to chase down Haslett and Sophia. And we just saw Sabre Venom, or Haslett as we do know him, serving a half-second penalty. But it's crucial around here. I mean, we do say a lot of the time, these half-second penalties, they really add up, particularly over the course of a feature race. I mean, if you've got 37 laps, if you get a half-second penalty each time, you're going to be losing the best part of 15 odd seconds, so you don't want to be doing that every lap. But again, looking forwards, Sophia looking great on that tyre in the Corvette, which does surprise me, but it does lead into what you said in the qualifying on the sprint pre-brief, that the tyre wear for Corvette wasn't that bad. So looking good for those Corvettes, and Hartman especially on those mediums. I think he'll be taking command of this race come the first pit stops for like Sophia and Haslett.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the tyres, it's interesting to see the difference in tyre strategy between the driver. It does look like it's going to be a 2-stop race. We know some people will try the 1-stop. It may work, it may not work. It depends on driving style. It depends on what the other drivers are going for. As we see Sarah catching up to the back of Birdie. Birdie actually, it looks like he might have an issue. Just kind of slowing down there on the corner exit and going off the track now. Yeah, going a bit wide with a 0.5 second penalty. No damage to the car, but maybe just having a few issues there. And unfortunately, it's going to lose him 2 positions to Sarah and Yvonne. But that does let the both of them free. As Yvonne now is going to have a look on Sarah. Might be a bit of a battle between the two for 8th position. But yeah, that's unfortunate for Birdie. He was looking pretty good there, but just maybe some issues that we don't know about happening inside that car caused him to slow up.
Yeah, that is a little bit of a strange one. Maybe he decided to get out of the way, or again, he's having a technical issue. Either way, he has fallen back right towards max velocity, who's now catching him very rapidly despite the damage. Now, if you see it move from Yvonne on Sarah, Sarah fighting back into that hairpin. Sarah round the outside. That is brilliant racing between those two. These two know each other from various different leagues. They've raced each other very, very often. And, well, you can just tell they have a lot of faith in each other. That was brilliant racing. But looking forwards, it looks like we are seeing the front lot settle down. Sophia driving beautifully in that Corvette, although then runs wide. That may be a half-second penalty. Might get away with it though. Yep, got away with it just about. Now Haslett, he's in that same zone that he was in the sprint. That front left is starting to die. Hartman's catching on those mediums. Sophie is now back with Hartman again. Definitely enjoying those mediums more than what she did the softs and the sprint. But Pac-Man 292 keeping a watchful eye in 5th. These three are going to be coming at the top two very, very soon, I feel. Rip and Terran, despite carrying a half-second penalty, keeping a watchful eye in P6. And Chris Douglas on those softs look like that 4GT doesn't look great on those soft tyres, but he's holding his own in P7. Sarah Hawkey and Yvonne still dicing with each other. Good battling from these two so far. But across the grid, I'm very, very pleased with a lot of the sporting behaviour we've seen so far.
Yeah, very clean. I do believe, you know, it's better, like as we've seen many drivers in motorsport quote before, you know, you want to be thinking about lap 37 on that first lap, especially. You want to be thinking about lap 37. You don't want to be thinking about lap 1. You don't want to be thinking about lap 7. You want to be thinking about lap 37. You know, you have to be able to get your car to the end of the race in order to finish the race. So, I mean, it's crucial here that, you know, the drivers not only are clean, but also just keep their car in the track, just to make sure that they actually get to the end of the race and maximize their performances and make the most out of it. As we see, Sophie is catching up to the Corvette of Hartman. You know, Hartman, I believe, on the soft compound of tires there. So maybe just running out of fuel in them tires, you know, the wearing very quickly, and we're not seeing much difference between the cars, but it's definitely going to boil down towards the end of the race as we see Hawkey round the outside into turn 1. A brilliant move. As we see now, though, that Yvonne is going to get the exit and is going to get her back into turn 3 with the switchback. But now, once again, is going to be Sarah getting the exit on turn 3 to nearly get past Yvonne. Into turn 4 they go now. Sarah clearing Yvonne into the entrance of the corner, but will Yvonne be able to come on the inside and now the outside for turn 5? She is side by side. Brilliant racing from the pair. Sarah down the inside once again and is going to take that position, but is Yvonne going to get the exit? Yes, she is on the inside here. The Porsche 911 versus the 650S, and Yvonne is going to get back in front and I think just about keep that until the next straight.
Carbon copy of what we saw in the F1 this weekend between Russell and Leclerc, I believe it was. I might be misquoting on that one. But yeah, that's brilliant racing between the pair. But out front, as we did see, unfortunately not seen on the main screen, but seen on your one, we did see Haslett drop 2 places to Hartman and Sophie. So all going on in this lap.
Yeah, it looks like Haslett's soft tire is just running out there. Also, I made a mistake. Hartman is on the mediums. Apologies. Just looked like Hartman was having a few issues into turn 1 when Sophie was catching back up. But yes, Sabre Venom on them soft tires starting to run out. So the medium runners are going to have a bit more pace than the dead soft runners. So we'll have to see how long he will stay out for. Because, of course, you can run on them soft tires and it's bearable. But if you have drivers overtaking you and passing you, you know, you're gonna feel like this is the wrong strategy. But some drivers just need to get them tires as long as they can to help their strategy later in the race. So Sabre Venom might be dropping time now, but it could be a case that he make it back up towards the end of the race when he has fresher tires. As we see now, Pac-Man is catching up to the back of Sabre Venom to get a P4 position potentially. Of course, on the medium tires in the NSX, will have better tire grip through the lower speed corners. Of course, the higher speed corners, the downforce kind of takes over, but the lower speed corners are definitely killer for the front left.
Yeah, just having a quick look at it, it looks like Haslett is a full 5 to 10 miles an hour slower on some of the right-hand corners right now. But like you said, maybe he's taken the pain now to open up the strategy later on. So keep an eye on Sabre Venom or Haslett, as we know him. But will he come into the pits this lap? I mean, personally, I wouldn't want to be driving those tyres any further, but each into their own as far as I feel. Some people like to go a bit further on these tyres. Again, open up that that pit window, but I think now is the time for Batman. Here he comes down the main straight. I think it's just a matter of mileage before Batman is through. At very least, if he's not down into turn 1, it'll be down into turn 4. Haslett is going to be struggling to turn that car right. As we see Chris Douglas, he's in the pits already at the end of lap 9. So he's obviously opting to get rid of those soft tyres. As we're watching Batman down the inside turn 3. Sabre Venom just about blocking him with that wide 911. Holding onto it at the moment. Forcing Batman around the outside. Not good driving from the pair.
Yeah, absolutely. It comes back to what I said about the defensive lines of this circuit. I mean, we've seen it before that if you can take a defensive line on this track and just do it every lap, it will hurt your tires more. But if your tires are already gone, I mean, it's completely free reign. So for Sabre Venom, he's going to be trying to take every defensive line he can and just hope that Pac-Man can't get the momentum to get past him. And obviously, we'll see Sabre Venom going to the inside, the outside. On many different corners, we see he's kind of catching up to the back of Sabre Venom on my screen now. And Pac-Man might be looking for a move now into this corner. He's going to think better of it and bide his time, maybe waiting for the front stretch where he'll have slipstream and maybe a better chance to get past. And he'll, of course, have a better exit because he does have the better tyres.
But like you said, at this point, once you get your nose under the rear wing of a lot of these cars, you lose so much downforce, you just slide wide yourself. But there we go. Haslett's given up the ghost. 10 laps. Soft tyres, so there he goes, into the pits. So that releases Pac-Man. But as we see just down the road, Sophie and Hartman now going at it for P2. But that is lost, I think Pac-Man, it's lost him a few seconds. That said, still a long way to go in this race. It does look like a fight between the McLarens, between Sarah and Max Velocity. Woo! That looks entertaining.
Yeah, Max Velocity just running wide onto the gravel there and picking up a load of dust, trying to make a move stick on Sarah, I think. But Sarah now inherits P7 because Haslett is in the pits as the two McLarens head into turn 1. Looks like Max Velocity's dip into the gravel has hurt his gap to Sarah. As we see, Chris Douglas is the first man on new mediums, apologies. So first person to put on new boots of the drivers, as now Haslett would be the second man to put on new boots onto the medium tyres, fueling up fully. So it's going to be interesting. The medium tyre runners will definitely be watching the soft tyre runners and seeing how long they were able to go. Because of course the medium tyre runners will be the next one to pit onto soft. Because you have to run 2 sets of tyres in the race. So they will have to pit onto them eventually. So it'll be good data for them to see how long the softs can actually last. And maybe just kind of amend their strategy if there's anything they weren't expecting. Or maybe just keep going if they were expecting that life out of the softs.
I do wonder though how many people are going to bypass the softs altogether and go straight to the hards. It depends what kind of strategy you're looking at though, Mac. It's tricky there. We do see a lot of variation in particularly the blue lobby. People trying things. I mean, it's the right time to try it. See what works. Find out what will work for the rest of the season. Hone your skills, and yeah, just give a bit of variation to the strategy, and it kind of works out a lot of the time. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, Sophia's tyres looking absolutely great on lap 12. She's done so well in that Corvette, I feel, and almost as good tyre wear as Hartman on the mediums. Matt, did I see that right?
Yeah, that was unfortunately a bit of a hit into the pit wall for Max Velocity. Unfortunately, it's going to leave him with front end damage, so a bit of a longer stop in the pits than he would have wanted. But yeah, just unfortunately understeering on them worn tires and hitting that pit wall, and he a bit of a levitation from the rear end, bit of aliens going on here at Barcelona. But back up to the front, as you said, Sophia, yes, has got really good tire wear for lap 12. She's been conserving them tires in the Corvette, which, I mean, the Corvette is usually not the best car for tire saving, so a really good job well done from her. And Hartman looks about the same, of course, on the mediums, so it's not as comparable to the softs because the mediums will wear less quicker, of course. But looks like Sophia now is actually struggling with that rear left. So same as the 458, Looks like that rear left is a bit of a struggle for Sophia in the Corvette, but that is going to make the rear a bit more slidey. Might be more prone to a spin on this potentially final lap that she's going to do before she comes into pits.
She does like a little bit of a live car, and she's definitely making the Corvette a bit live with pushing those tyres as long as she has done. But Sophie, following Hartmann, pushing him every single lap now. I can only imagine. I know we said about it earlier on, she doesn't look like she's going for the move. Maybe she is fuel saving a little bit, thinking long games. Like you said, you've got to think lap 37, not 7, or in this case 13. Maybe she is saving a little bit of fuel up behind Hartmann. Or she's just having trouble getting on the back of that Corvette. I mean, we're not in the car, we don't know. So all we can do is infer. But at P4, Patman, oh, big slide. There's a P4. Must have gone wide in T3 as well. So, yeah, picking up half-second penalty. Unfortunate. But pulling, ripping to tearing with him as well. Yvonne looks like now she's clear of that. Mclaren is doing well in P6. Sarah, obviously doing well in P7, yet to stop also. Bertie looks like that Aston Martin is really struggling, even on the mediums. It looks like it's shredding those tyres today. So that is not good for Bertie in this race, despite a very good outing at Red Bull last week. Now, our former P2 driver Haslett on those mediums now looks like he's picking up the speed again and starting to come back through the field as everyone around him starting to pit. Chris Douglas still circulating, doing well, was the first to pit a few laps ago. The tyres looking immaculate so far, and as we saw, max velocity with that unfortunate pit incident as Sophia is now in the pits. So that does release Hartmann and Sophie to P1, P2, at least for the short term.
Yeah, so Sophia will be coming in for potentially fuel and also tyres. Looks like 29% fuel, unless she's going on to the softs again. Probably will need a bit of extra fuel in the car. And Pac-Man entering the pits off the mediums as well. Bit of an early stop for the medium runner. I believe that might be the first medium runner we've seen coming to the pits now. So Pac-Man with 33% fuel, just a bit more than Sophia does. But of course that NSX is better on fuel, as I believe Pac-Man has damage, does he? Has he hit the pit wall as well?
I think he might have, that pit wall looks like it's been biting people today. I mean, it does happen. Once you get on the marbles, and particularly coming in off the racing line, it's so easy to understeer wide. He's barely taken any fuel at all. Is that a mistake? He's gone to racing soft. He's definitely cut the pit line. So yes, he must have had an incident on the way into the pits. But that is... Is he just going for fastest lap to get a couple of points? That's an interesting strategy there, Matt.
Yeah, maybe he just thinks that the softs aren't the tyre to be on this race. Maybe he might pit early off the soft tyres and then pit onto mediums to end the race. Or maybe he's even thinking of the triple, maybe soft, medium and hard. We'll have to see where that strategy is going to take him. Maybe a mistake, as you said. He might have made a mistake, of course, because he would have been repairing the damage. He might have pressed do not refuel, trying to get to the damage page by accident. We don't know. We'll have to see if it was a mistake or if he was in fact aiming for that. As now Hartmann circulating on track in P1 with that front left looking a bit grim, going nearly all red. So the front left tire nearly completely gone. And Sophie looks a bit better on tire wear. A bit of a surprise considering the 458 isn't the best on tires, but of course, as we mentioned in the sprint, that rear left wears a lot quicker than the Corvette. But yeah, Sophie, as you mentioned earlier, Sophie, if she was fuel saving or tire saving, it could just be a case of that Ferrari is quite wild when it comes to just in terms of oversteer and understeer. And in the dirty air, it could be worse as we see Sarah ripping to tearing and Devon into the pits now off the medium tires. So it looks like Pac-Man might have kicked off a flurry of medium drivers pitting, and it looks like they're all going to be taking fuel here, and we'll have to see. Does anyone go onto the mediums again, or does anyone stick to the soft? We'll have to see.
I still wonder if anyone's going to go to the hard, seeing the tyre wear that we got today. It looks like a beautifully clear day in Barcelona, so maybe the heat is punishing those tyres more than we thought. But yeah, as you said, Pac-Man kicking off what looks like a horde of drivers pitting. So, but yeah, I can only think Pac-Man, maybe he's doing what you said. Maybe he's going for a hyper-aggressive stop, or he's accidentally not fuel. So either way, I think he has to try and maximise what he's got now. Go for that fast lap, absolutely push the boat out, try and grab a couple of points in the feature race, and then protect what people coming up from behind him on what would seem more optimal strategy. So interesting, if maybe a bit odd, but either way, he's going to have to try and maximise what he's got. And looking, do you know what? I think that NS6 does look good around here, though.
Yeah, definitely. Nice luminous and white livery on that NSX, and even just nice to see an NSX in general. Not often that we see drivers driving that, and I think it's the only one in this blue lobby, and not sure if it's the only one in the red lobby as well, but nice to see it anyways. We see Hartmann into the pit lane, fuel nearly gone, and that front left looking very, very bad. So definitely coming in off the mediums, running out of grip as Sophie is going to stay out, potentially another lap, maybe going to try to do an overcut. We'll have to see, but she does have more fuel than Hartmann does. So yes, maybe you were right, maybe conserving fuel behind Hartmann, just coasting, and even in fact nearly 20% I'd like to make out from that from the fuel meter in the bottom left. But yeah, going to continue on track now as we see Sophia with a 0.5 second penalty as she inherits second position. So it's not going to help her attempt to getting some time on them new medium tires. But that leaves us now with the top three being Sophia, and Pac-Man. Of course, Sophia will be the net race leader after Sophie pits.
Yeah, loads of interesting strategies kicking off around here. You know what? I think Sophie might be going for that overcut, as those tyres are gonna reach their Armageddon point coming around the last couple of corners. She's going to have to be careful. I would definitely be pitting 2 red tyres around this track. I'm not going to say it's suicidal, but it's definitely not fun. We're going to say that, but she's going around again. What do I know?
You have to say that is some delicate and really professional driving to have the 2 left tyres in a 458, which is notoriously a difficult car to drive. That is outstanding that she's keeping that on the track, because trust me, I've been there before. That car does not play nicely with even a bit of tyre wear on the car. The rear is really snappy as soon as you get past 50%. So I mean, really, really good performance here, managing to keep it on the track and managing to just consistently set out good lap times. So definitely a contender here for the end of the race, I'd say. We'll have to see how her strategy goes. She will have better tyres towards the end of the race. We'll have to see what happens as we look further down the grid. Now we can see Haslett in P4, and it looks like Hartmann's come out in P7 after the pit stops. So getting jumped by Rippin' the Terran, Bertie, and others. So interesting, but he's after taking more fuel. I think he fueled up to 100%, as Bertie is now one of the drivers that's going to be coming into the pits, actually. So that is a mistake. That will leave him behind Hartmann, of course. So Bertie will be pitting, but nice to see him up there. Look back now, we can see Max Velocity has gotten ahead of Sarah Hawkey after the pit stop. So Max Velocity getting the undercut there. We saw him pitting way earlier, even after hitting the pit wall, managing to get past.
Do you know what, Matt? I wonder if we're going to be seeing some one-stop strategies here. Sophie and Bertie yet to pit, rapidly closing in. Never mind.
Commentator's curse.
Yep. Well, it was worth an idea, wasn't it? But maybe she's abandoned that strategy, knowing that the time delta between herself and Sophia was rapidly coming down. Saying that Sophia has not had some good laps on the opening laps of this stint. She was down in the 41s, and she's doing 42s, and then followed by a 44 on the fresh medium tyres. So she's had a bad opening stint so far. That's interesting, Matt. But as we can see, Pac-Man is definitely catching her with his personal best fastest lap the lap before. So unfortunate for Sophia. Maybe she's not enjoying the balance of those medium tyres. I mean, I can only speak for myself. In a previous season at Yamagiwa, I hated the balance shift of some of the tyres as the races went on. Maybe she's suffering something similar, or maybe just a bit of luck, bad luck.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Pac-Man is on the soft tires, so will technically, Saber Venom with a close call with Sophie heading into turn one. But that Sophie is going to have to get the tires with temperature, but will have a tire advantage over Haslett, who pitted before, and in fact actually warmed up the tires very quickly because they're side by side now. Heading into turn four, down the inside, the 458 against the 911, and manages to get it done before the exit of the corner even comes. A great overtake there from Sophie, really showing the pace of that Ferrari today. Definitely going to be a contender for a podium, even if a win today, I'd say. But back to what you said, definitely could be a tire balance issue with Sophia right now, as we see Pac-Man's past Sophia on the track.
Yeah, she's definitely suffering with something at the moment, and that is unlike Sophia from the earlier half of the race. It's like she's in a different car. I wonder what's going on. If she's having the odd technical problem, or it's been rattled by something. Because when you're driving like that, that Corvette now looks loose. And that is unfortunate, as Pac-Man runs wide as well. So I think maybe these two drivers may be upsetting each other on track, maybe.
I would like to mention that obviously with the Corvette, if Sophia likes the Corvette being oversteery, the softs would give her the chance to get the car turned in the corner and kind of, you know, swing it in, whereas with the mediums it's going to be more understeer. So potentially the car is understeering a lot more than it used to. So if she was using the over rotation to get into them corners, now the car is just understeering, which could potentially, we can see she's getting a few track limit penalties, so maybe just on the exits, not anticipating the understeer. But as I was mentioning before we had that move with Sophie, we would expect Pac-Man with obviously tire deltas, Pac-Man on the soft, Sophie on the mediums. If it was an ideal world and both drivers were the same pace, the softs would be quicker than the mediums. So Pac-Man will have the tire advantage over Sophia right now, but they both have a 0.5 second penalty, so there will be no one gaining from either one's penalties. But it'll be interesting to see. That battle may lead on towards the next set of stops, and we'll have to see who's going to come out on top for that P1. As we see, they're now serving their penalties, both of them, so neither going to gain because of course both slowing down there at that penalty line. As we see Chris Douglas fighting with Yvonne here, heading into turn 4 and now into turn 5, side by side between the two of them.
Yeah, good racing from this pair so far. And on the previous lap, we just saw how powerful like the overcut or the new fresh tyres were. We saw Sophie absolutely, well, just blow by Haslett on that last one. It was like she had the nitrous button enabled as Pac-Man comes in after only having that third tank on his NSX. But as we're seeing, the reason why I bring up that move previous lap is that it looks like the much fresher tyres providing so much more grip for Yvonne over Chris at the moment, who looks, he's doing well, but it looks like the tyre wear, our first stopper earlier on, is catching up with him.
Yeah, definitely. The mediums, they can come into their own once you get a bit of heat into them, but then once the wear starts to kick in, you start feeling the feeling that you had when you first went off of them, switching from sauce, which was just understeer. As we see now, ripping to tearing up into P4 and Haslett into P3 after the pit stop from Pac-Man, which we still don't know if it was a deliberate reasoning to take no fuel on his stop. I guess we won't know. But it looks like now Saber Venom and Ripping to Tearing going to have a battle here potentially.
Do you know what? I wonder if that was a tactical thing from Pac-Man, just to get over the halfway point and go medium, soft, medium, and just stick with the mediums as long as possible. I bet, as you say, maybe we'll never know. I might have to message him and ask him.
I think that might have been the strategy, thinking that he's now pitted on lap 20, which is, yes, exactly about 17, 18 laps from the end of the race. So, and we obviously, 37, it's about, I think it's 16 and a half laps is half of it. So,
ripping.
Yeah, I'll move there. That's for P3. So for a podium position, Ripping the Tearing into that hairpin, managing to get the move done. A good move.
And he had to do it.
In the 4GP.
He had to do it because Hartman was closing in rapidly on the pair of them.
Exactly. So now there's going to be a three-way fight here for P3. I think Haslett's tires are starting to expire, unfortunately, so he's losing a bit of grip now compared to Rippon Deterin and Hartman, who are on way fresher tires, who pitted later than him. That Porsche 911 does not look good for managing the tires this race. Hartman in the slipstream, it's not going to be enough to catch up. I said you want 3 or 4 tenths in hand to fend off into turn 1 between another driver, but it just looks like the gap is too big between them heading onto that straight as they head into turn 3 now. Hartman trying to push on, trying to catch up to the back of Saber Venom, and it looks like he is going to catch up, but is he going to have enough space to go on the inside? It looks like Haslett just turns into the corner, shuts the door, attempting to get stop him, but it looks like Hartman is just going to make a move on the inside before the corner is even done and get past, heading into turn 5. A good move for P4 there, and Hartman is going to try charge on now to try overtake Rippon Deterin for that podium position.
Yeah, good move from Hartman there. Good racing from the pair. But at the moment, out front on Heat2 currently, Sophie has set the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 40.1, which is 1.7 seconds a lap faster than Sophia, who looks like she is pushing the limits of the track in that Corvette. But like you said earlier on, maybe the balance and medium tyres, not being able to pivot the car from the front as she'd like, definitely causing her issues. But Sophie catching Sophia rather rapidly at the moment, it would seem. But Rippon Deterin clear in P3, followed by Hartman, and then Haslett, who is going to want to go a few more laps before he gets in the range of going to mediums again and then to the end. He's still got 16 laps to go to the end, so he's going to be wanting to push another three laps more or so, or go to the hard tyre. But so far, so good. No real massive incidents to worry about for the stewards. All good racing so far. And I've got absolutely no complaints for any of our drivers. But keep an eye on Patman292, who's definitely going to be going to the end. I think he's our first runner that is fueled right to the end. But I do think we've had an issue with Big Crazy Bertie. I think he's had a spin somewhere between turn 1 and 3, and it's got rear end damage. He was running those hard tyres and thinking to go to the end as well, I believe. So unfortunate for him, and not a great day at the office.
Yeah, we just saw on my screen there Rippon Deterin going off in turn 4. Lets Hartman by. He went off into the gravel. So Hartman having an easier overtake there than he would have expected. Just Rippon Deterin getting oversteer into turn 4 and just running wide. And you could see Hartman just getting an easy overtake by. But that means, you know, Rippon Deterin is going to be kicking himself over that, because he had that. He was managing a healthy gap to Hartman, and just one mistake, it just ended it, unfortunately, for himself. So we'll have to see now. Will Rippon Deterin have enough pace to get back up to the back of Hartman, or is that done deal until the next set of stops? We'll have to keep an eye on this battle.
Yeah, I think he's had a few issues with the turns 4, 5, 6 complex. The entire race he's had a little bit of issues with getting that car, that 4GT rotated. But still running P4, still very, very strong, but he will be kicking himself, like you said. But that has allowed Hartman through into P3. Because we're all going to be fighting for those positions. But looking towards the front again, Sophia coming around turn 4. Sophie in that 458 rapidly closing in. 4 laps in succession in the 1 minute 40s. Sophia barely in the 42s. Not happy on those medium tyres, it would seem.
Yes, interesting. Sophie is really closing in here. And it's interesting, you know, because Sophie was doing really well on the medium stint that she had. And it's just showing here that that medium stint that she did is really paying off, as now that has helped her to catch up to the back of Sophia, who's struggling with the balance of that car. We see elsewhere on track Chris Douglas getting overtaken by Max Velocity for P7. But yeah, this is interesting. There's a lot of battles starting to brew on track now, and we'll have to see. I mean, it could all change when the next set of pit stop comes, or it could stay the same. It's unknown. It's unknown territory. It's no man's land. We'll have to see.
I'm with you on that. I've got to say, I'm impressed by Max Velocity. It's his first race with us, and he's definitely found his seat, particularly in the second half of this feature race so far. Started off a little bit shaky, but he's definitely finding the pace and moving forward, making some good moves there. So looking forward to seeing what he does in the rest of the season. So we have a couple of newbies here. I think Chris Douglas is in his third race with us now, so now a seasoned veteran. But also Patman292, he's very, very first race with us as well. So good one from the rookies so far. But I'm going to be keeping a special close eye on that battle for first. It does look like it's shaping up to be an interesting one.
Always good to see new faces on the grid. So we'll have to see now, as you said, with that battle, what's going to happen. Sophie is closing really quickly onto the back of Sophia, but the question is, you can see Sophie's tyres, you can see the 50% wear on that front left, and as I said, 50% on the rear. As I'm going to reiterate, the 458 wears its rears quicker than its fronts. So it's going to be interesting. Will Sophie have enough tyre life to overtake Sophia and keep her behind once the tyres start to fade? That's the question. And can Sophie extend the stint long enough so that she can go on another set of tyres at the end, another set of soft tyres at the end of the race? And you can see here into this corner, Sophie's really closing up onto the back of that Corvette. Will there be a move onto the straight? Will Sophie have a close enough gap? And you can see there, she definitely will. There's definitely a close enough gap. She doesn't even need slipstream. She might be alongside here before turn one, and she's pulling to the right hand side.
Oh, this is going to be down onto the brakes into turn one. If not, round 10 for... Oh, a late dart from Sophie into turn one. Late on the brakes, gets that move made. Outstanding. Absolutely brilliant driving from the pair. Sophia was absolutely fair, moved only once, but it's going to be looking to come back at Sophie into turn four. But I don't think that Corvette's got the grip to challenge at the moment. It's going to be down... I mean, that was a great move from Sophie on Sophia. But now it's going to be Sophie wanting to make a break for it. And then Sophia might be thinking about the undercut, a quick trip into the pits, and then get back past in the pit. So all to play for still. This is not over by a long way.
Yeah, definitely an amazing move. The late send from Sophie, managing to get the move done. Brilliant on the inside there. Really good line. And you can see the tire is definitely helping with that overtake. As you see, Haslett into the pits, one of the earlier medium stoppers, and finally changing them tires out. The tire was getting too much. And now onto probably a new set of softs, I'd say, or maybe mediums. It depends. It's interesting. We're kind of in the crossover points between whether you want to go to mediums or softs, because softs will be quite worn by 12 laps to go, which currently it's 13. So we'll have to see what he heads onto, and it looks like it's going to be another set of mediums. So interesting. Not able to stay out long enough to get another set of softs on. Might compromise the strategy. We'll have to see. Pac-Man catching up to the back of Sarah Hockey now, potentially looking to make a move into the second sector.
Yeah, these two have raced each other quite a few times before as well. They will show each other respect, but we do know Pac-Man, he wants that spot. He doesn't have to pit again. But Sarah definitely does. But she runs wide coming out of turn 7, and I think we see Bertie in the background doing the same. I think he might be taking a Joker lap out there. But Pac-Man making the move, stick down into the corner. Sarah had to get out of the throttle, otherwise she would have picked up a penalty. So decent bit of strategic driving from Pac-Man there, and Sarah thinking very, very cleverly as well. But yeah, now settling down. Max Velocity into the pits from P6. Oh, running wide again. Don't hit that pit wall. Don't want to do that twice. That'll release Pac-Man up to P7. And then the rest of the drivers, well, it's all still to play for, I feel. I don't think any position in this is settled yet. Matt, can you call anyone for the podium yet?
Oh, I don't want to give anyone commentator's curse, but I do have to say, if I had to think about a podium right now, I would be saying Sophie 100%. They've had the pace the entire race, and unless something catastrophic happens, they will definitely, I'd say, be on at least one step of the not at least. I will at least be P3 or P2, maybe even a win if they can get this last stint right. We'll have to see, but I think definitely Sophie is a contender for the podium because they had the pace all race, they've had the tires, they've had the car. It looks like everything is falling into place for a podium or even a win.
Quite possibly. Max Velocity back out the pits on those soft tyres. That McLaren will just about do 11 laps on those soft tyres. It's going to be a little bit touch and go, but he will make it. That said, a little bit further front, we've got Tesla, who is on those mid tyres going to the end as well, carrying a 1 second penalty. Unfortunately, ran very, very high to begin with. I think started P4, now running P9, but obviously drivers in front still yet to pit. So I think there's still quite a few drivers that are still yet to make moves, but at the moment, yeah, podium-wise, I think we can probably guess who the top three might be, but in what order, nobody knows. Batman making a move on Chris Douglas into the final corner, getting up to P6, so he's definitely a man on the move at the moment, being the first one, I think, to pit for the final time. It's now starting to pay off for him in that NSX.
Yeah, definitely. He'll be going on a longer stint than everybody else, but he does have kind of the undercut that he can have the fresher tires right now, but will he have the fresh enough tires towards the end of the question? You see Sophia with a 0.2 second penalty. That is the deal. Is pretty much he's going to have the tires and the pace now, but it's going to be a struggle at the end to keep up with the guys who have new tires when they pit. Eventually, is Sophie getting a big slide in that final corner. You can see that the tires are definitely expiring on the 458. Sophia gets another penalty, so that's not going to help with trying to catch up to Sophie. Yeah, even with Sophie's tires getting kind of in the danger zone as we saw that slide through the final corner. But yeah, it's gonna be tight, I'd say, towards the end. Like, they're tight, they're very close right now, but even after the pit stops, it's gonna be close if anyone tries to pull an undercut, or if we'll see if everyone pits at the same time. It all depends as we just cycle through the grid right now, having a look at everybody. You can see Sophie, as I said, that rear left is gone before that front left, but they're both kind of similar wear, but she's going to be struggling for traction on the exits.
This is why I expect that Corvette to start coming back out of that Ferrari. That said, Sophia carrying a 1 second penalty, that's not going to help her at all. And Hartmann, so far, he's kept his nose clean, and I think he's one of our drivers of the day so far, bringing that Corvette round, our American in the Corvette. He's done brilliantly so far. And then Ripon Tateran still keeping a watchful eye. Possibly should be running P3 without a couple of mistakes that we've seen. That said, I think we've just had an incident from Chris Douglas and Sarah Hawkey into the final corner. We'll see if we can get the footage of that up later on, but I believe there was an incident between the two. That's unfortunate for the pair as Chris Douglas takes his final pit stop of the race.
Yeah, very unfortunate. Obviously, maybe just side by side. We did see Sarah and Max Velocity side by side into the penultimate corner previously, and we saw Max Velocity taking to the gravel and picking up a bit of dust. But maybe the same situation here, just Chris Douglas maybe getting a bit of wheel spin and spinning. We'll have to see what actually happened later on. As we see the front two pitting now, Sophia off the softs, Sophia off the mediums. This is a crucial part of the race, both on 1% fuel. This is going to decide the race win.
Yeah, completely. Same fuel loads. That Corvette will need to take a little bit more fuel than the Ferrari, I believe. It's a little bit more thirsty. But that said, it's going to be soft tyres to the end. And we know Sophia was stinkingly quick on those soft tyres in the first stint, and she's going to prefer those tyres. So, here we go. It's battle on for first. As Hartmann takes up the provisional P1, followed by Ripon Tateran, who looks like a slightly worse tyre wear, but is managing it very, very well at the moment. But here we go, two leaders out, almost at the same time. Both soft tyres, but Sophie taking more fuel, curiously, so maybe she wants to be pushing to the end. Definitely wants to keep that fastest lap, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting, both on softs. Let's see now. what the pace is going to be like. Of course, Sophie was on the softs and Sophia on the mediums, so let's see if Sophia feels more comfortable on them softs. The balance should hopefully be back to what it was at the start of the race. Does that mean she might feel better? She might be able to get a move on Sophie and get past her. We'll have to see as it boils down at the end of the race here. It's lap 29 out of 37 as Haslett just crosses the line there. Sarah came into the pits and is stopping off of the medium tyres, probably going to put on softs. As we see now, our net race leader is Sophie, as Hartmann and Rippon do have to pit. Sophie does get a 0.5 second penalty. That is detrimental. That is going to let Sophia catch up to the back of her and maybe even be able to get some slipstream, which is not what she wants. If Sophia gets into the slipstream with that Corvette already being so good on the straights, it could lead to Sophia managing to spring a move into turn 1 as Hartmann comes into the pits now. Mediums, 15% fuel, will be onto the softs most likely, just like these guys.
Oh, Sophia also picking up half-second penalty. She's had the option of catching up to Sophie and done it again. Picked up another half-second penalty, so it's mutual between the two, so it's not going to benefit either of them. So I think they're both doing the same as the other on this one. But I know from experience, I've had the pleasure of racing Sophia many, many a time. If she gets out in front of Sophie, which she will not want, Sophia is incredibly hard to pass. But at the moment, Sophie doing enough to keep Sophia behind her. And maybe Sophia dropping the ball a little bit, picking up that penalty, losing opportunity of getting up to P1. That's unfortunate from, well, the pair of the drivers, really.
I will just mention, Pac-Man up into P4 now, so that means he's a net P3, so on the podium, once Rippon finally makes a pit stop. Now Hartmann is following very close behind on fresher tyres, so we'll have to see if Pac-Man can hold him off. But right now, Pac-Man is looking in quite a good position, but 8 laps to go. Will Hartmann be able to catch up and take that final podium slot?
Oof, it's going to be close between the two. If I were to put money on it, I think Pac-Man's going to make it difficult for Hartmann. But that said, it's going to be excruciating for Pac-Man on those older medium tyres with Hartmann on the softs. We'll keep an eye on that one. Rippon, yep, I called it. Can be into the pits now. So quick splash and dash. He's going to be the one taking on the least amount of fuel and then only going a few laps to the end. Might see him challenge for the fastest lap.
Yeah, definitely. And as we see now, Sophie will inherit this race lead. Both drivers on the soft tyres. This is going to be interesting. Oh, Sophia with another 0.5 second penalty. That is not good for her race. So that means she's going to drop even more time. So unless Sophie gets another 0.5, that is going to be pretty much 1 second lost serving the penalty. They say it's 0.5 seconds. It really is more like 1 second because the GR3 cars, they don't have as much acceleration as, let's say, a GR1. So by the time they get back up to speed after the penalty zone, it's more like you've lost 1 second. So we see now Hartmann in P4, Pac-Man inheriting that P3 finally. It does look like Hartmann may be catching up to Pac-Man, but will he have enough time in the final 7 laps? As we see, actually, Rippon exiting the pits in P5. If he can keep that P5, that would be an amazing finish for him. He's looking on form today.
Quite right, and I think, strategically though, I think Rippon, he should have pitted a lap or two ago. Pitting, I think Hartmann has massively undercut him. I think Hartmann's played a blinder there.
Yeah, definitely. The gap has definitely grown between the two of them. So yes, Hartmann has pulled quite a gap. I'd say the softs, pitting a few laps earlier wouldn't affect the life of the softs because the softs are going to make it to the end of the race anyways, I believe. So yeah, maybe the wrong decision there. Maybe should have pitted a lap or two earlier when Hartmann did. As we see now, I believe Sophia has served that penalty, so the gap has grown between the two, and you can see the gap right there as Sophie heads into that final corner. Both drivers will be wanting to make no slip-ups now. This is the final 6 laps of the race as they just crossed the line now.
I think the only question that we've got in this race, sadly I do think Hartmann will be getting Pac-Man. I think the question is, did Pac-Man mean to go for that short stint in the middle? But at the end of the day, he's made it work. I mean, at the end of the day, he's done well, and he's come from the from it's his first race with us, so learning the format as he's been going. I don't think he's going to be complaining about a possible P4 and challenging for podiums.
Definitely, I think this will definitely be a learning curve for Pac-Man, getting used to all this news. I was, I believe, maybe a small bit of contact there. He's in the corner, but it looks like Hartman has sealed the deal, and it's P3 for Hartman. Let's see, maybe will he be able to catch up to P2? Not sure. There is quite a big gap between P3 and P2. They're both on, I believe, P3 is going through turn 5 as P2 is going through turn 9 now, so maybe not the chance to catch up unless something catastrophic happens to the front two. But yeah, I mean, Pac-Man has had a bit of an issue there, as he getting overtaken by ripping to tearing now as well. Just as I was praising him with saying, you know, learning curve with this series, he's doing really well to have a P5 in his first race, and just maybe having a bit of an issue there as ripping to tearing up into P4 now, getting past.
Yeah, that's unfortunate from the dad bod racer, but I don't think he's going to be too upset with a P5. He's done well to be there, and again, it's a very, very steep learning curve, particularly at Barcelona of all places. It's a track that we all know, but we always seem to come to it and then be suddenly very surprised at the tyre wear. But yeah, Pac-Man doing well. Unfortunately, dropping another place, a couple of places in a lap or so, but I don't think he'll be too unhappy with that, because he's had time away from GT7, and I think he's done himself proud. But out front at the moment, Sophie looking imperious, followed by Sophia. It does look like Sophie has played the better strategic game today, and Sophia not being able to deal with that Corvette on those medium tyres. I mean, we do know some cars just don't like a set of tyres. It does happen, even in GT7. It just comes down to your own driving style and how you like to work the car. Sometimes it just doesn't work out for you, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen many times before that the hards are not used that much because they just have so little grip. In certain cars, the tyres just won't bite. The car won't feel right at all, and it just feels like you can't drive it. It feels like it's on an ice rink. And it's the same with the mediums at certain tracks, and even sometimes the softs can have a few issues, especially once they get down to certain wear percentages. Also, just want to point out, it does look like we do have a retirement. Bertie is staying in the pit lane and not coming back out on the track. Very, very unfortunate for himself. He was kind of having a bit of a difficult race, so it looks like he won't be going to lap 37 here. But yeah, as you said, certain cars just don't like certain tires. It's not specifically about the tires. It's just, as you mentioned before, the balance. The car they feel like there's something weird with the car, and it just feels like you can't get the grip that you want. You can't accelerate where you want to, and you can't brake as late as you want to. Just see Rick McLaren kicking up a bit of gravel there, and Sophia with a 0.5 second penalty, which isn't going to help her efforts catching up with Sophie. But yeah, it's just unfortunate. You know, there's just sometimes you'll feel good in the car, and then you switch the tires, and all of a sudden it just all falls away.
I can absolutely validate that from my own experiences. Sometimes felt like I've been so incredibly hooked up on the soft tyres, or even the mediums, gone to the other tyre, and suddenly the balance is just, it's not what you want. All over the place, you can move the balance of the brake bias all over the car, and you just can't rediscover it. And as soon as you lose that thread that you've got in the car, that feeling, if you can't get it back, then it just disappears from you. But at the end of the day, I don't think Sophia's going to be too upset with a P2. She's going to want the win, of course, but a very, very solid podium after a very difficult race week in Red Bull last week. Unfortunately, a couple incidents and whatnot, but this time a sprint win and a podium from the sprint and then to the feature. I don't think she's going to be too upset with that, but it does look like she's absolutely hounding that Corvette, trying to find every tenth of a second. She doesn't give up. She never does. But Sophia has actually picked up the fastest lap of the race again, taking it away from Sophie.
Yeah, but I think 0.2 of a second separated Sophie and Sophia when Sophia was on that fastest lap attempt. So even with the fastest lap, it was only 0.2 gained on Sophie. So both of the drivers really matching each other's pace. Great to see it. But as we see now, Hartman has definitely secured that P3 as long as nothing goes wrong. And I would like to say, as long as Sophie can manage this race and manage the last 4 laps, it looks like it may be going Sophie's way today.
I would agree. I would absolutely agree. And there's one driver we haven't given too much attention to since the battle with Sarah Hawkey, and that's Yvonne, running a very, very solid P6 in that 911. As we have seen earlier in the race, that 911 has been quite severe with the tyre wears, but she's managed it pretty well, I would say, and running P6. But the only person I'd say might be disappointed so far today would be maybe Haslett Saber Venom, who was running P2, qualified high up in the grid, and unfortunately that strategy, running long in the first stint, it hasn't unfortunately paid off. But again, as we've said, the 911 around this track has suffered quite badly with tyre wear. So I think it would be back up to the podium spots, particularly for our next race, which will be the upcoming Monza. Very, very different track to this. And I think a lot of the drivers would be happy to be going to a very different track after this high tyre wear.
Yeah, I do have to say, Yvonne has had quite a good race. I'd like to agree with you. After getting not the best qualifying position, maybe might not have been happy with her qualifying position, has just really been, she's been a bit quiet this race, you know, just been doing her own thing, but she's been gaining the positions and doing all the right calls and getting up into P6 there in the end. And looks like a good performance from herself today, as we see now the race is settling down as we're in the last 2 laps of the race, depending on where you are on the track. And yeah, it looks like it will be going in Sophie's way, as I mentioned, unless anything goes wrong. But yeah, I mean, a good race today, I have to say. It's been spectacular. There's been some really good moves, and honestly, there's been a few drivers that I wasn't expecting, you know, up in the top positions that have done absolutely amazing with their strategies today.
Tell you what though, keep an eye out. Patman's tyres are about to drop off a cliff, and he's got 2 laps to go, and Yvonne's only down the other end of the straight, even half the straight, so that is going to be closing very, very quick between Yvonne and Batman. So yeah, I think so far today, I think everyone has demonstrated great driving, particularly the ladies out front, Sophie and Sophia, but we can definitely see for the coming races that I think a few drivers are going to have to work on their strategy perhaps, and it's not a criticism, it's just saying that is a weakness that can be ironed out across the season. We've seen, particularly from a few drivers, that I'm not going to say squandered positions, but areas that can definitely be enhanced and maximise their performance. I mean, Ripon Tatarian still has lots of tyre life left on that, on those soft tyres, so he definitely could have pushed I think an undercut, maybe Hartman for P3, but at the end of the day, you don't know until you get out there sometimes. But it's one of those hindsights, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, it's a case of, at the time, you just go with whatever your gut tells you, and then after the race, you're like, damn, that would have been so much better, like, that option would have been better. But at the end of the day, really, if you're finishing P4 like Ripon Tatarian, I mean, that's still a really good performance. I know after the race you're going to say, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. But that's a learning experience. At least you know for the next time, maybe you should go with that. Maybe next time you're racing around here in F1 RST and we have the same tyre wear, you can say, oh, I know that this is, you know, these tyres are going to last well with this car, and they're going to do this and they're going to do that. So it's all a learning curve, it's all a learning experience. So, you know, he might be kicking himself over at the end of the race, but at least he'll learn from it, is the main thing.
Quite right, and we have seen some cracking racing from each and every driver, and I don't think we've seen any massive mistakes one way or another. We've seen the odd little bit of damage, but no one outright causing any issues, so I'm proud of each and every one of them. But again, I'm keeping an eye on Patman, who's really suffering. But at the front of the field, Mac, take it away.
I mean, just an absolutely brilliant performance from Sophie today, managing to climb her way up the grid at multiple points during this race. Starting alongside Sophia, I believe, is going to come across the line to win the feature race. An amazing performance in the 458. Up next is Sophia, who's going to finish in P2. A valiant performance today, our pole sitter for this race. A great performance from her. Hartman is going to come across the line in P3 in the Corvette. Quite a quiet race from him. We've mentioned him a few times, but he's been doing his own thing. He's been consistent. No mistakes from him. And coming home in P3, we're ripping the tearing, following close behind in that 4GT. A brilliant performance from him today as well. His strategy maybe could have had a bit of an amendment, but it was still really good driving. We see Pac-Man and Yvonne are be close on the line here, but it looks like Pac-Man, if he can get the exit on this corner, might just beat out the 911 of Yvonne, and it looks like that will be the case. Pac-Man comes home in P5 with Yvonne in P6. Saber Venom now coming up here through the final corners in P7, just a bit further behind this lead pack, but he's on his way, don't you worry, in that Porsche 911, making his way around these corners. You see that front left really dead in that medium on the medium tires. He was pushing that stint to the end. We'll mention as well Chris Douglas in P9 finishing the race in the 4GT. Saber Venom comes up to the line in P7. And Max Velocity as well in P8. Sarah Hawkey finishing P10, and Bertie unfortunately in the pit lane not finishing the race. But yeah, that was a great race, and congratulations to our podium finishes and all the other drivers.
Oh, I'm breathed, Mac, and absolutely breathed. And that was a strategic masterclass from Sophie there, I feel. Sophia doing very well in that Corvette as well, pushing Sophie right to the end. And I think Bertie's back out on track.
Yes, he's, I believe he's 8 laps down, but he is going to make his way around the track just for one final lap on new soft tires. Coming out of the pit lane there. Of course, he's on an out lap. This is not a fastest lap attempt.
Oops.
As oh dear, just into the grass there a small bit.
He's been listening to your drifting courses again.
As we see now into the penultimate corner here now in that Aston Martin V12. Not the day Brody would have wanted, but at least he is finishing the race, going to come across the line for himself, taking the checkered flag in P11. A great race from all drivers today.
Oh, with a 15-minute lap as well. He did quite well there, I think. But yeah, do you know what? I'm proud of all of those drivers. It's something for... I think Barcelona is something to learn from, particularly when it comes to the highway tracks. But we've got later on in the series tracks like Autopolis and a couple of others which will be sensitive to tyre wear, we'll just say that. But honestly, each and every one of the drivers there have done well. And right at the end there, Yvonne pressuring Pac-Man for for the P5. So all the way to the end, battles going on, and again, proud of each and every one of them. Matt, any particular highlights in that for you?
Oh, I mean, I have to say the battle at the end there between Sophie and Sophia, while there wasn't overtakes in that last stint between the two of them, even just the gap between them was closing and then gaining again, and it was opening up and then it was closing again. I have to say, quite tense. I mean, if any driver made a mistake, it was game on for the other one. So I have to say that was a big highlight, that battle towards the end. And even in the middle of the race, when that amazing overtake that Sophie made on Sophia was done, that was really entertaining. But even as well, just honestly, the whole race, there's been stuff happening all over the track, all over the shop. So I think all the drivers can give themselves a pat on the back for finishing that race. It was a tough one. Red Bull Ring is quite a lot nicer and doesn't punish you as much compared to this track.
Yeah, steep learning curve. And I'll say from myself, that battle between Sarah and Yvonne earlier in the race, beautiful racing between the two there. It's great to see some of our newbies, Max Velocity, who has done himself proud, and Pac-Man 292 pushing that NS6 to the absolute limit and nearly to a podium, has done well as well. I think it was Sophie who came out the pits earlier on behind. You might have to forgive me on this one. It was a long while ago. I think it was on Ribbon to Darren, who looked like she absolutely nitrous past him. So
Hartman, I believe it was.
Hartman, perhaps, yeah. But it is one of those moments. So like she might take a couple of moments to get those sides up to. Oh, she's through. It's one of those moments where I think, because it was so close at the front, she had to make that move quickly, and definitely did exactly that. So, but the strategy paying off in the end. But at the end of the day, great racing from everyone on the grid, and I'm again proud of everyone, and hope to see more from the blue lobby as well. But again, please check out the red lobby as well. The action was just as fierce, and we even had our own scrap, didn't we, Matt? So which was fun. But something for you to check out on the video, which we're not going to let any spoilers go on that one.
Yeah, do check out that battle. It was very fun, and there was battles throughout the field in that commentary, so you should definitely check it out. And for my fans out there, I have a little surprise for you at the end of the feature race. Don't worry about it. That's all I'll say.
That is fair. That is fair. I had my own surprise on one of the laps, which you can check out the thumbnail for. But otherwise, yeah, check out the red lobby with Sarah and Deadline, who Deadline will be joining us, I believe, for Monza on track on the blue lobby. So we will be seeing him again on track. Unfortunately, Matt, would not yourself participate in a few races this season due to other commitments, but we might see you later on, and maybe for some commentary as well. But I'm going to ask you
definitely.
I'm going to ask you for one question. Driver of the day.
I knew this was coming.
You know, I had to ask you first because I couldn't think about it myself.
It's such a tough one. I mean, like, there's so many different aspects you have to take in for driver of the day. I mean, of course, you always want to pick. Sometimes you always want to pick the winner because, of course, they're the one that won. But at the same time, there's so many other performances that, you know, like, even though they didn't come first, they didn't finish first in the race. You think, wow, like that driver did really good. And it's really hard to, like, pick a side sometimes, you know? It's like, do I want to pick, you know, this person who did different aspects of the race well, whether it was overtakes, whether it was strategy, whether it was whatever. But I think, from my opinion, I think for the sprint race, I want to say, I don't know yet. I'm going to think about that while I pick the one for the feature race.
Yeah.
Feature race, I'm going to pick Rippin' to Terran. I think it was a good performance. He did make one or two mistakes here and there, but I do think Rippin' to Terran, he had some amazing pace. And as you said, I think if he ironed out a few mistakes, he could have gotten a P3 or P2 there. He was on the pace today. And that 4GT was looking really good. I mean, I was like, 4GTs is not, when I think of competitive cars, I usually don't think of the 4GT, but honestly, that might have changed my mind today with how quick that car looked, and it was doing really well on the fuel and the tires. In terms of the sprint, I have to give this a bit of a think. I think I do have to say I'll go with Sophia for the sprint. I mean, pretty much no mistakes. There were a few penalties, but I think Sophia did pretty well in the sprint to secure that win. And a nice gap. Of course, this start towards the front, but it was still a good performance from them. And no mistakes off the track or anything. Just constantly pushing, constantly aggressive throughout the whole race. And I think that's my sprinting feature driver of the day.
I'm with you on that. I mean, Sophia in the sprint. I think it was P3 on the grid for the sprint. Lightning off the start into turn one, boom, gone. You can't falter on that absolutely at all. Absolutely brilliant racing. For the feature, I was thinking somewhere between Rippin' to Terra and Hartman, who were close the entire race. But then again, I'm also thinking Sophie as well because of that absolutely perfect strategy.
Definitely.
So,
I was thinking Sophie as well, but I think, you know, even like it's so difficult picking a driver of the day, as I said, because there's so many different aspects. There's the overall winner, there's the best strategy, there's the best overtakes, there's the person who went from last to the front. And I think in general I just want to give a shout out to Yvonne as well. In the sprint she had a mega performance, getting a podium, and as well in the feature coming up through the grid for that P6. But I think, I don't know. I think, honestly, I don't know. What do you think?
Honestly, I think we're procrastinating on this one because we're having a genuinely difficult time picking. I think we have to split decision on this one. I'm genuinely, not because of the win, but because of the strategy, I'm going to go with Sophie for the feature. Sophia for the sprint, and I think you've got a very apt and correct call for Rippentatarian for the feature as well. So somewhere between a mixture of the three. We'll have a think after the broadcast regarding our official event driver of the day. But honestly, it could go to any of the top 4 easily, and I don't think anyone's going to be particularly upset at the other one because everyone has driven extremely, extremely well. So it sounds like a bit of a cop-out, maybe it is, but at the end of the day, that's what we're here for in this lobby, to watch good racing, and everyone has performed. So
exactly,
I think we'll leave it there, leave you all in limbo, and we'll have a think about it afterwards. But again, Mac, I think that brings us on to what's going to come out for the rest of the season after this Blue Lobby race. Please check out the red one, particularly even for the previous races, previous seasons on YouTube. The back catalogue is there. We're also on TikTok, Instagram, and a couple of other places like Discord. So feel free and check out the link tree, which will be in the description. Come find us and say hello. But Matt, more than anything, I think that puts us on to the what comes next in the calendar-wise. Monza, which will be a dry race, of course, but the next 2 races, which will be a double-header of Monza and Dragon Trail Gardens in the wet. So there's a lot of action to come in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, Monza, high-speed track, low tire wear, high fuel consumption. I mean, not only that, I think we should outsource the driver of the day to the fans, because I can't be making these tough decisions weekly. I think my brain's gonna be melted from making these tough driver of the day decisions. But yeah, Monza is gonna be a good one. I think there's going to be a bit of a car advantage around there for the top speed cars, so stuff like the Corvette, the GTR. It will be a good one as well. Now I know that did get nerfed, but even the GTR, the Corvette, the BRZ will be a good one around there as well. Even the 4GT as well, I think, was pretty good around high speed ring. High speed ring, any car is good around there. Would be similar for Monza, kind of. And of course, it wouldn't be Monza if I didn't mention Turn 1.
Yeah.
We have to mention the Turn 1, Lap 1. There's going to be a lot of practice put in from the drivers to make sure we don't have any shenanigans going on at that corner. But yeah, I mean, a long run into Turn 1, and it's quite a tight Turn 1. It's going to be interesting. Like, around this track, you have a lot of chances to make an overtake, because it's easy to slipstream. You've got a long straights to get a move done, but at the same time, drivers have to remember, you want to get, as I said here, you want to be thinking about lap 37, not lap 1. So hopefully you won't see any people making mad moves into Turn 1. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting. I think bring on Monza. I'll be honest, it's not as much of a technical track as Barcelona, so it's not, in my opinion, for me, I don't have as much fun driving on it as I would like Barcelona, because there's a lot more corners. But at the same time, in a race, there's a lot more fun because there's a lot more overtaking and a lot more chances to go alongside with people.
Couldn't agree more. And on that note, please feel free to chat back with us. We are trying to release the videos nice and regularly. But again, come and join the community. Come and say hello to any of the admin. And come chat with us directly. If you're interested in taking part in this league in the future, we're all about, and we're welcoming new drivers of any skill level. And as you can see here today in the blue lobby, doesn't matter what skill you are, good racing will be put on. So Matt, I'm going to say thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure being in the comms box alongside you again. Hope to see you again for later in the season. But in the meantime, on towards Monza. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
And thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure as well. The pleasure was all mine. I have to say it's been great fun commentating. As I said, I'm not sure if I'm commentating round 3. My availability is a bit spotty for the middle of the season. But if I'm not there to commentate, best of luck to all the drivers. Hope you all have some very nice racing, and I'll be looking forward to watching the highlights. If I'm there, then disregard everything I said, and I'll see you in a week's time.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. Thank you everyone for watching. Please feel free to leave us a like, a subscribe, and a comment. But in the meantime, over to the podium room where you can hear from the drivers themselves to see what they thought of this race. Thank you all very much. Catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
My sprint race should have been better. I was overzealous into turn 1 lap 1, and in waiting to give the position back, I lost some time in places. The rest of the race was great with battles through the field, especially with the NSX driver, Pac-Man. As we were battling with Yvonne for third, I managed to come in fourth, so I was happy with that. For the feature race, I decided to play it safe and start on the mediums, so that compromised my qualifying and started P2. I was never going to beat Sophia in qualifying as she was on softs. As usual, my Ferrari was a rocket of the line. But after a few laps battling with Sophia, I made a mistake and dropped a few places. So I dropped an engine map so I could go long into the race, then do 2 qualifying stints on the softs. It paid off as I caught Sophia and pulled an awesome overtake into T1 when she was still on mediums. After that, it was just managing the gap to Sophia for the final stint on softs. And I came home with the win, which I was very happy about. Can't wait for the next one and see you all there.
Hello everyone, Yvonne Houfler here. Yes, Barcelona, what a challenge. In the Porsche, a new car this season, not anymore the lovely Beetle, but I'm now driving the Screen to Speed Dream Team car livery in the Porsche. It was a difficult race, lots of tire wear. The fuel in the sprint race was not a problem, but the tires were. So especially on controller, it was very difficult. I managed to get P3, but it's mostly thanks to my teammate and also fiancée Sophie, who basically helped me a little bit to get the P3. But she was going to win the second race, the future race, so that was all good. So congrats to her and a big thank you. The future race, I hit Sarah, I think, on the rear with some leg spikes, and it was very strange. So apologies for that, Sarah. But yeah, it made it very difficult. So I let the whole field by and started from the last place, basically, after lap 1. But came back quite well. I think in the end, if I didn't make a mistake in the beginning, a podium was in there too, maybe a P3. The other 2 ladies, Sophie and Sophia, were too quick. Congrats to everyone on the podium, and I'm looking forward to the next race. Thank you to the organization. Ciao, ciao.